Breakups or divorce don't just happen out of the blues. Some signs will indicate beforehand that a marriage will not work. These are 4 signs that when it begins to show up in a marriage, regardless of what both spouses are trying to mend up, if these signs are not taken into consideration, that marriage will not work. Number 1. A third party. When spouses begin to listen to people besides themselves concerning how their marriage should work, especially friends and relatives, it is a big sign that a marriage will not work. Every relationship is dynamic and relative. There is no one principle to apply for the working of a relationship. That is why it is called a relationship. Things are relative. Spouses have different characters. When people outside who do not know anything about you and your spouse begin to give you their opinions on how to take matters in your home, and both spouses to obey their opinions, it will lead to the marriage not working. You are not married to your parents. You are married to your husband or wife. This marriage is between you and your spouse, not between you, your spouse, and any third party. This is a major hindrance to long-lasting marriages because when homes interfere with people outside, trust is destroyed and their commitment is broken. When there are disagreements in the home, you should not go out to friends and families to begin to report your family matters because no one can open up and relate again with those who publicize their weaknesses. Issues in the marriage are supposed to be dealt with in-house because when this happens, the trust in the home reduces, the communication reduces, and the intimacy and loyalty of both spouses reduce because it shows a lack of love for each other, and without love in a marriage, it cannot work. Feelings does not make a marriage work. When spouse begins to go by feeling, what they feel like doing or not, it leads to chaos in the home. It doesn't matter what you feel like doing when troubles raise in the home. You should hold yourself and solve between yourselves. Listening to a third party always causes a bad relationship with the in-laws of both spouses. In some tribes, when you marry from their family, you must have it in mind that you didn't marry these third parties, but you married your spouse. Some in-laws can be very troublesome and they never mind the consequences. That spouse should use wisdom in dealing with the third family in a marriage. There should be this covering from both spouses that act as a unique reflection of excellence in the marriage. When there is an involvement of outside voices in your relationship, it breaks the trust of both spouses and causes havoc. We see many marriages destroyed because, for example, the wife kept listening to her friends and her friends kept counseling wrongly from an opaque perspective. Then the wife begins to think, I wish to be like her friend too, who has total control over her home. And that is how fights rise in her marriage, and she begins to blame her spouse for the faults in the marriage. This is the foremost sign that a marriage will not work when both spouses listen to a third party. Number 2. Differences between both partners. For a successful long-term relationship or marriage, you both must have major things in common. If both of you have nothing in common, then you will not be compatible in interests or activities. And then the marriage might get a point in matter of time where it cannot work between both of you. You should have at least some activities, interests, and knowledge in common. It's hard to be together if you both have different beliefs on major issues. If both of you have different long-term plans regarding where to settle down, then this is a big issue to consider. Another thing to consider is the issue of kids. If one person wants kids and you don't want kids or vice versa, a marriage most likely won't work. If it goes ahead, one partner would feel unfulfilled and it may cause pain and extreme bitterness. If you have different religions, it could be hard for a marriage to work, especially when you have children. The children would have a hard time trying to struggle with choosing between two religions. Your partner may believe strongly in the family before anything else, while you believe that your career is first or vice versa. In any case, such a difference would only cause huge hurt and misunderstanding. The difference may be in methods of finances. Maybe you're frugal and your partner loves to spend a lot, then it'll be hard to make a balance. If you're experiencing major differences in the issues regarding kids, location, money, and religion, and you've tried to reach a compromise that is pleasing to both parties severally, but it's not working, then a marriage between you two will not work. Number 3. Communication issues. When partners have communication issues, it shows that both spouses are having no more interest in each other, and it will cause emptiness and dryness in the relationship. As a couple, there would be a need to communicate, and there would even be a need to communicate your disagreements if both of you have reached a place in your relationship where you don't talk about your conflicts anymore, you don't fight any longer, then something is wrong. It's like you or your partner are now so passive in the relationship and don't bother to make things straight. If this keeps going on, there is a possibility that you both would explode into a massive argument that would end the relationship. If this has been the case lately, then marriage will not work. If you both can't fight, even when it's obvious something is wrong, then it may mean you're both expressing your indifference towards whatever happens in the relationship. A couple should be able to speak about touchy subjects, uncomfortable decisions, and conversations about several things like finance, kids, and family. If every time you talk about a touchy issue, it's as though you're nagging, then a marriage between you and your partner can't work. For a marriage to work, you both must spend time together. If, for any reason, you notice that you don't feel like spending time with your partner, and it's as though being with them is more of a burden than a blessing, it's possible that you no longer care about the relationship between you two. Therefore, a marriage between you both can't work. In your relationship, there should be communication. Both of you should be the most important persons in each other's lives. If you notice that you have someone else you always feel like calling when you're emotionally down or when you have something to celebrate, it's obvious that you don't value them as the best and first in your life. Then a marriage can't work between you two. Marriage is a partnership, so it's important to share with your partner the information and decisions about your life and things that would affect them or your relationship. Number 4. When there is inferiority and standards between both partners. In a marriage, both partners should feel happy, safe, comfortable, and loved. You should appreciate your partner and love them, but you shouldn't feel inferior to them. If you're in a situation when your partner rubs it in your face that you should feel grateful that they chose you, then a marriage between you both can't work. If both spouses feel they always have to meet each other's standards, where one has to do so many things to keep each other's standards, then a marriage between you both can't work, because you would constantly feel the need to change yourself for your partner. If you're in the right relationship, your partner won't treat you as though you should be grateful that you got lucky for them choosing you. They should love you for your true self. Also, if you feel you're too good for your partner, you're not meant for them. In a loving relationship, you shouldn't think that a person doesn't deserve you or that you don't deserve your partner. You both should be comfortable being just yourselves, and you shouldn't feel the need to be changing your partner's personality or manner of life, how they dress or the things they like to eat or places they love to go. Changing someone is drastically unloving and manipulative because you're trying to create a perfect figure for yourself, and it means that you don't truly love your partner for who they are. If you're afraid that being yourself isn't good enough for your partner, or that you constantly have to change yourself to be accepted and loved by them, then a marriage can't work between you two. Living in a home that is all dependent on laws and demands will create a perspective of condemnation between both spouses. When your partner isn't meeting up your expectations, so you keep trying to change them to fit your requirements, if you're having to do this every time, then this marriage can't work for you. When this begins to happen in the home, there can't be intimacy, and when you constantly feel the need to pick on every little thing that your partner does. If everything they do doesn't seem to fit you, then you aren't meant for each other, and marriage between you two can't work. Ingratitude and not accepting each other as your partner, but our minor is a sign that a marriage will not work.